All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Generations War for Cybertron Kingdom Leader Class Maximal T-Rex. Yeah, this is a pretty awesome guy. If you're unfamiliar with T-Rex as a character, of course, spelled T-WRECKS, like he Rex, he's a wrecker, he's the T-Rex who turns into a T-Rex. He is a Beast Machines character, actually. He wasn't one of the characters in the Beast Machines cartoon, but in the toy line for Beast Machines, they had a bunch of repaints of like basically previous dinosaur themed Maximals and Predacons. That became the Dinobots team, and the Dinobots team they're all Maximals, but they're basically just like a bunch of dinosaurs. And one of them was T-Rex, who was a repaint of the original Beast Wars Megatron mold. So, of course, they've taken the new Kingdom Megatron mold and they've made a new version of T-Rex, which is really cool because, like, other than Viacons, I don't think we've ever gotten like a new toy of like Beast Machines characters. I guess like in the Titanium line, there was a Beast Machines Cheetor figure. But other than that, there's nothing else that I can think of. Like, certainly we've never gotten new incarnations of any of the Beast Machines Dinobots before, so it's really cool to have a new T-Rex here. And he looks very nice in his like burgundy-ish red and blue color scheme. The blue has a bit like of a metallic sheen to it. There are some spots where like I feel like it could have used another coat where like you're starting to see like the red in between the cracks there, but still overall it looks pretty good. In terms of articulation, it's of course the exact same as Kingdom Megatron. The head can rotate here a little bit, although you're like moving these flaps out of the way, so it can get kind of ugly unless you know, like really work with it. The head can rotate up and down. The jaw can open much further than the sculpting kind of, you know, makes it look good. Like really to there is how it looks still good because you still have like the sculpted bit to kind of fill that section there. The little arms are on ball joints. These legs in the back, they can rotate out like that. You can rotate them out, but you have to like disconnect this piece, so like it doesn't really work very well for that. The knees, he can rotate at the knees, he can bend at the knees, can tilt forward and back at the foot here, and then there's some ankle tilt. And then the tail, you can rotate this section back and forth and rotate this section. I mean, this section also rotates, but that's really more for transformation. So yeah, you know, pretty decently posable for a T-Rex that also has to, you know, transform into a robot. Here he is with the original, you know, Kingdom Megatron, just so you can see what they look like together. Nothing different sculpting wise. It's just, you know, just a repaint of the exact same mold. I do find actually though that like in terms of mold degradation, there's definitely a lot of bits on this guy that feel not quite as polished as the original one in terms of like these like rubber panels that, you know, line pretty much the whole figure. Like on him, they don't tend to stay in as well, and they've kind of warped out of place a little bit. Like if you're just comparing their backs here, like it doesn't line up quite as neatly on T-Rex as it did on Megatron. And there's sort of a lot of bits on him that are kind of like that. Like nothing terrible, but just like when you're comparing it to the previous version, that's definitely noticeable. But yeah, that's how they look together. Here he is with the original Beast Wars Megatron, well, the reissue of him, just because that's the same mold that T-Rex was. I don't have a original Beast Machines T-Rex, but that's what they look like together. For fun, here he is with Nemesis Primal from the Worlds Collide 4-pack from Buzzworthy Bumblebee, just because, like, I know technically T-Rex is a completely different character than Megatron, but it sort of feels like he's just like a maximal version of the Beast Megatron. So it's kind of cool to have him facing off with the Predacon version of Optimus Primal. I don't know, just cool comparison. For a standard size comparison, here he is with Siege Sideswipe. Not Siege, sorry, Kingdom Sideswipe. And then just for some more dino fun, here he is with Studio Series 86 Grimlock. So yeah, you know, pretty good. I like his dinosaur mode a lot. I think I'm probably going to display him in this mode just because, like, I think that's the best looking part about this figure is, like, the red and the metallic blue. And you don't quite see as much of that in robot mode, but we'll see it when we get there. For transformation, it's the exact same as Kingdom Megatron. So it's a bit of a process. You want to flip up these panels, and because like the pin section that attaches them to these little armatures here, I've heard reports of that popping out. So when I lift this section up, I always make sure to get a finger behind that gray piece itself, so you're not like prying the red piece off of the gray piece. So you're just like not putting any stress on it at all. So I haven't had any problems yet, but that just feels like the safest way to do that, so that you're not putting too much stress on that joint. Then this whole section here on this little armature, we're just going to lift it up like that for now. Rotate the tail around, bring the legs down like this, untab them from that section there, clips in very securely. Then these sections here, you want to double hinge them, and don't bring them all the way in yet, because you have to sort of bring in the legs simultaneously to clamp them together like that, and they clip together very securely, too securely. Like when I'm going back to dinosaur mode, like it tabbed in pretty securely on the original Megatron too, but like it's easy enough to untab. I legitimately, so far, like I'm hoping that it kind of wears down a little bit, but so far I've not been able to do this without like a tool to like pry in there and kind of pry it open, because that is just way too tight. And then I'm like worried about like breaking the joints the legs are attached onto. So hopefully some of the plastic kind of wears down over time, so it doesn't become too big of an issue, but that is a little bit annoying. Then you just want to take these little hip sections, pull them out, rotate them around, and then press them back in just like that. And that's pretty much the legs all done. Then you want to take the whole belly section here and split it down the middle, rotate it out like that. There you get to see a lot more of that blue. Then his robot mode head, you flip out like that. And then these panels are on springs. I find the easiest way to get all this in the right place is to kind of hold these open while you take the body, rotate it around like that, and then kind of like bring it down on this double hinge so that you can slide it onto this blue piece and clip it into place. Then let these go in back like that. Adjust the camera here a little bit so we can get him in frame. There, good enough. Then you want to take these back panels that were like the stomach section and just kind of rotate those in so they kind of sit along the back like that. Rotate them around. You want to take the sections with these pieces on it and rotate these so they're kind of sitting sort of parallel to the back like that. Bring this section up on the armature, and then there's a clip here that goes onto this post or this armature that it's in. On my Megatron, one of these clip pieces is actually broken off because it was like too tight. Thankfully on him, it's not too tight. And I mean, on my Megatron, it's fine because one of those two halves holds it just fine. But I haven't had that issue on him yet, thank God. But yeah, you rotate it in like that. And then you can take the little dinosaur arms and kind of tuck them into this back section and take this panel here and rotate it down onto the back. And then you can take the dinosaur head arm and rotate it down just like that. Then take this arm, rotate the tail section around. Take these panels here. You want to untab them from the like bottom spiny section, and then rotate it in like that, and then rotate the other section around like that, so it sits like that on the arm. Now on this side, this is kind of difficult to do because you can see, just because of the warping of this plastic, it kind of like sits up above. So when you rotate it, it kind of gets caught on there, and you have to like kind of push it in at the right spot. And the first time I did this section was stuck in front of here. It's good now, but like just be careful. You don't want it to get like overlapped the other way, because then it's really difficult to get this to actually work correctly. But yeah, just rotate it like that. And then last but not least, you just take that claw section there and rotate it down to kind of make his claw arm weapon that the original toy had. And there you have T-Rex, Maximal T-Rex, in his robot mode. And yeah, he looks pretty good. Obviously, he's got less detail on his chest section than Kingdom Megatron did, just because they were basing that more off of the show model, whereas this is really trying to stay more in tune with the original toy, and that original toy didn't have like a ton of painted detail, just like the original Beast Wars Megatron toy didn't. So yeah, it ends up looking a little bit bland, but at least it's a, it's a kind of good color gray that they use, because it's not one of those colors of plastic that just eats up detail. Like, you can actually see all the sculpted detail on there really nicely. It's just, it's debatable about whether it was a better choice to not put extra painted detail on there. In terms of articulation, of course, it's exact same as Kingdom Megatron. The head is on a ball joint here, can rotate. You don't get really a ton of like wiggle back and forth. The shoulders here are on swivels like that. They can rotate out this way. There's like, at least on this shoulder, I think just because of the way, they wanted it to be able to move in dinosaur mode, there is a bit of wiggle like back and forth like this. But yeah, the shoulder can rotate out like that. It's got like 90 degrees of bend at the elbow, a bicep swivel. The one joint at the hand, like, it can bend up this way. I'm not really sure what that's useful for, because it's not a transformation joint, but it can do that. This like claw weapon, you can open the claw, obviously. Not sure, like what else you're really getting out of that. This on this arm, you've got another bicep swivel. You've got a bend at the elbow, but unfortunately, it's that annoying like gorilla elbow where you can't actually like bend it forward here at the elbow. Like, it has to bend sideways, which, because of his weird dinosaur arm hand, like, I think it works relatively well, like better than most figures that have that annoying like design quirk, but it is still a little bit of a bummer. And then obviously the jaws still have the same range of motion there to open and close as his hand. The hips can go forward, back, out to the side. They kind of bump into this section here. It's got a thigh swivel, about 90 degrees of bend at the knee. The feet can tilt forward and back a little bit and tilt out to the side. So pretty good foot articulation. And he's got a waist joint. So, pretty decent articulation overall. Really, the only one bit of articulation that really, bums me out a little bit is the sideways elbow. But, obviously that's the same as on the Kingdom Megatron as well. But overall, pretty good. Here he is again with Kingdom's Sideswipe, just so you can see that standard size comparison. Here he is again with Studio Series 86 Grimlock, who's a bit taller than him. Here he is with Nemesis Primal, just so you can see the the bad guy Optimus versus the good guy Megatron, basically. Here he is with the original Beast Wars Megatron. Well, again, the reissue. And yeah, that's what they look like together. And then last but not least, here he is with his mold mate, the original Kingdom Megatron, just so you can see some of the differences there. Like I said, like, there's a lot more painted detail on the chest for him. I mean, I guess some of that paint budget went into doing like the metallic blue paint for him. I don't know. It's fine. Like, that's not the part about him that bothers me the most. The part that does bother me the most is, if you remember, a while back, someone actually found in the wild a variant of Kingdom Megatron that had the more like grimacing head sculpt that was like more reminiscent of this head sculpt, the toy design, where he had that like open tooth like scowl going on. And the presumption when that showed up was that somehow one of that version of that head sculpt got onto a version of him, when in reality that was really going to be designed for him. As of right now, officially, we have not actually seen that head sculpt officially released on anything. So I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but because he has the exact same head sculpt. And, it would have been nice to give him the more toy accurate head sculpt, since he's based on a character that is like toy only, basically. Like, there's not been any like main TV show or anything that's featured T-Rex as a character. So to kind of replicate that look, they've just decided to paint his lips silver. So from a glance, it sort of looks like he's got that open tooth scowl, but it doesn't really look super good for that. Like, it really just makes it look like he's got silver lipstick, which is like fine, I guess, but it would have been cool to see that toy accurate head sculpt on him, just to make him a little bit different, especially since we've gotten like all these other versions of straight up repaints of Kingdom figures that have that one little difference of having that toy accurate head sculpt. Kind of a bummer, but not the end of the world. In terms of other differences between them, I mean, they're the exact same mold in terms of like the mold degradation and stuff that I've been talking about earlier. Like, there's definitely some bits on him that feel a little bit looser, like this waist joint, like does not stay clipped in nearly as well on him, which, take it or leave it, because like I had to actually file down the waist joint, that clip on him, because it was so scary difficult to unlock. So it feels like maybe they overcompensated that for a little bit too much. It might just be mine. I'm not sure. It was kind of like weirdly disconnected at the waist in the box, so it might have like warped that piece a little bit from being stuck like that for so long. It's honestly not the end of the world. Like usually it doesn't matter, and it does make it easier to unlock that joint, but yeah, it definitely doesn't clip in quite as securely as it did on the original one. And yeah, I don't know. Overall, a lot of the joints feel a little bit looser, just a little bit less refined, but it's not the end of the world. It still mostly works as well as the original, just a little bit more finicky. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about the guy. It's a kind of a weird reference for them to do, like I said, we haven't really gotten any other new versions of Beast Machine's characters aside from like, the occasional Tank War or like Collector Club versions of Strika and Obsidian. But in terms of the Maximals, we really have not gotten any of them, especially the Dinobots, who weren't characters that like were actually in the show or anything. So it's a really cool reference. And obviously, they did it because it's an easy one to do, because it was just a straight repaint of a figure that they already had, and they can use this mold again to sell a new leader class. Oh, this was a Target exclusive, if I didn't mention that. I think it was one of those ones that was like originally a red card, like one of the Target's like weird official credit card exclusive, but then eventually like they just get early access to it, and then eventually it's just released in store for anyone to buy, which is good, because I definitely wasn't going to go get some weird promotional credit card just to get a specific figure. But it's a cool figure nonetheless. It's a good mold. It was good on Megatron. Usually I don't like buy, repaints of leader class figures too much, just because like, it's you can handle it on a deluxe because they're a little bit less expensive, but leader classes are a bit more expensive. But this one thankfully was a birthday gift to me, so I didn't have to take the plunge myself. But it's still a cool figure. It's a cool reference. I'd like to see some other stuff that references Beast Machines, because it's not as bad as people give it credit for, I think, and it had a lot of really fun toys that would be cool to see new versions of. But either way, that's enough rambling out of me. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Kingdom Leader Class T-Rex.